and his brother is the god of the underworld, Hades. And then you have on the left-hand side Ares, the god of war, and then on this side Apollo, the god of the sun and of music. And then you have Poseidon, the god of the sea, and Aphrodite, the goddess of love and um, beauty. And there's a whole bunch of other gods as well. Athena, god of wisdom. That used to be the mascot of my old high school, Jarvis Collegiate. In the Rotunda area, where only grade 12s were allowed to be in that area, there was a big statue of the goddess Athena, a big white marble statue. And that became the symbol of the school, Athena. And you have Nike, and you have, of course, half god, half man, Hercules, etc. So the whole idea here is that when the Greeks thought about the gods, it was simply one god, one eternal, universal God. It was a whole group of gods with a leader. And they're often in competition. Zeus and Hades hate each other's guts, sort of like my brother and I. We fight all the time. And Zeus ends up winning and stays on the top of Mount Olympus, and Hades ends up in the underworld, banished away. And you have all kinds of stories of Greek mythology coming out of here, where people will be competing, they get jealous, they get involved in conflicts. Of course, playing around with humans like they were chess pieces on a chessboard. So this is why Socrates had a bit of problem with the Greek gods, is that often there didn't seem to be one consistent message from the gods. And the gods often were extensions of human beings. They have human qualities. They're quick to get angry or jealous or fight or conspire against each other. And so sometimes it's very difficult to figure out what is the best way to do it. So this is why when he asked the question of what is piety, and the answer comes back, whatever is due to the gods, which one are you referring to? And of course, with world religions, it becomes even more complicated. But if you were in my world religions class, you realize that there's really only one God, and we understand God differently, but still only one God. And all the world religions have the same God. Just their experience of that God, their knowledge and understanding of the God is different. So this is where all takes place. I always used to have trouble pronouncing the guy's name. Euthyphro? Euthyphro, okay. So this all occurs outside the courtyard of courthouse. And Socrates meets Euthyphro outside the court, and they're waiting for each of their respective issues before the courts. And Socrates is there because he's indicted, he's charged with corrupting the youth and inventing new gods, moving away from the gods of Mount Olympus, or questioning the gods of Mount Olympus, and not believing them, especially the god of wisdom, which is Athena, which is I believe, is the god of Athens. Euthyphro is prosecuted because his father was charged with murder. He killed a slave. And so he sort of snitched on his father, let the authorities know, and he's there to help prosecute. And Euthyphro felt that no one should be killed without cause other than self-defense or in a just war, and that every human person was important. So this is where it all takes place in Athens, in front of the courts. Both of them are going to be judged on, or Socrates is going to be charged, and Euthyphro is having his father charged. So it all kicked off when Socrates asked Euthyphro what he thought makes something good, or holy, or pious. Same idea. The language they use in those days. So the whole issue revolves around piety. This is a dialogue that's written by Plato, Socrates' student. Okay, Socrates didn't write anything. But his student Plato recorded this conversation and wrote it in a like a play or a dialogue. So we get this from Plato. So the whole issue was, well, what's good? I mean, his father killed a slave, and he's not a good man because he murdered someone, even a slave. And sort of like in those days, it would be all slaves matter. Okay, that they have rights too. They have a right to live. Okay, piety, often defined as moral duty. What makes right action right? In the beginning, Erythro, Socrates asked his opponent, are things good because gods like them, or gods like them because they are good? Yes, Socrates now questions piety and morality. Okay? So that's the first issue. It's a dilemma. Should you listen to the rule because the gods tell you it's a rule, or should you listen to the rule because it is in fact a good rule, whether or not the gods say so? So it has nothing to do with an authority figure, the gods of Mount Olympus, saying it's good. It's good itself. Do you follow Mr. Servidio's rule about uniforms because it's a good rule or because he says so? Right now, he says so because you're afraid of being sent home. Every morning you're reminded that you're going to be sent home if you have a uniform. But is it a good rule to follow? Should you follow it? Well, ask him why. If he gives you a good answer, then it's a good rule, it makes sense using your reasoning, and therefore we should be uniform. It's interesting, Mr. Savio doesn't say all the people online should be in uniform right now. Yeah, good question. How many of you in uniform? That's a good question. You're in class. How are we going to? Someone laughed. Okay. It's interesting. I asked Mr. Savio, what about all the students who are at home? Okay. It's a good question. Now, if Mr. Savio can give you a good answer, then it's good. He doesn't have to tell us that. It makes sense. So he would say things like school spirit, proud of the community we live in. You save money and keeps you safe. We know who's a student, who's not a student. I'll tell you a quick story. I've been teaching a long time. It's 35 years now. And when I used to be a supply teacher in Toronto, one school I used to go to was the only Catholic high school that did not have uniforms. There's Cardinal Newman. It's in South Scarborough. And when I walked in there, it was Civies Day every day. The students went to the principal administration and said, we want uniforms. And the principal looked at the student and goes, are you crazy? You're the only school that doesn't have uniforms. You should be happy. He goes, no, we're not happy. And so the principal asked the students, why are you not happy? Why do you want uniforms? Because we all work at summer jobs, we will all have part-time jobs, and we're spending a fortune on clothes, keep up with the fashions. And it's just a big rat race. In fact, when I went in there, in those days, Michael Jackson was popular, so different versions of Michael Jackson, people dressed up in leather jackets and one-hand gloves and all kinds of stuff. You had Madonna was very popular, so all the girls were dressed as Madonna. Then you had the Purple Revolution, Prince, the people were dressed in purple. Then you had the goths all dressed in goths, and then you had the jocks all dressed in those days it would have been Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan in different uniforms. Everybody's civil uniform, civies, and it was costing them a fortune. So they said, we want uniforms, but on one condition, we want to design them. So we have to take it to the parent council. We took it to the school board, and they came back to you have to have a vote. And 60% of the students have to vote for uniforms in order to get approved. They voted. 80% voted for uniforms. So they designed our uniforms. The first thing they said is no blazers, so no jackets. Second thing they said, no ties, golf shirts. Third thing they said is no dress shoes, black shoes. Sounds familiar? It's like St. Rob's. Now, I used to be a student teacher at St. Rob's, and in those days, it was those beige and orange uniforms, and they had blazers, and they had ties, and they had dress shoes. Things have changed a lot. Okay. And 80% of the students wore uniforms because they wanted to save the money to spend it on other things, like weekends, or just own interests. Okay, so now if Mr. Sevilla says that, then it makes sense and it's good, and we don't need Mr. Sevilla to tell us that. We buy into it. We use the term appropriate the reasons that make sense to us. We can rationalize it and we accept it. Okay, what is dear to the gods, what is not is what is dear to the gods is pious, what is not is impious. Socrates says, but gods have different views about what is pious and impious. The same things then are loved by the gods and hated by the gods, and same things would be both pious and impious. Okay, that's just a little cartoon. So that's the dilemma. If you base it on authority, so if Mr. Savita says one thing, and Mr. Babby says another thing, who do you listen to? If your mom says one thing, your dad says one thing, who do you listen to? Who's the boss? Okay. If your father says no and your mother says yes, what happens then?
Years of his life.
If you get interested later on, but right now this is you'll learn more about it in next class tomorrow. And okay, here we go again.
There you go.
Yes, someone can do that.
No problem.
Okay, we lost connection, so let's give it a minute to come back. Sorry about that. Thanks, guys, for patience. Try and go back here. Do you see the full screen or half screen here on your devices? So I can do it this way. This one right here. Yeah. Yeah. Share, right?
You have to choose the frame first.
Sorry? Something has a mic on? Okay, so this first.
Click on the mini screen inside that.
Yeah. Okay, there. So this is okay now? Okay. We'll start there. We're okay here? Okay. So, a parallel is going to be with your parents. Do you follow rules because your parents say so, or because they're good rules to begin with? Will your parents say so? When your parents uh, disagree. So Socrates gives the example. Is lying a bad thing? And most people, the way they've been brought up, will say that lying is not a good thing to do. So it's a bad thing. Certainly, the gods tell us that lying is a terrible sin, and in the Catholic Christian tradition, it's one of the commandments that both Jewish, Christian, and Muslim, and Hindus, and Sikhs, and Confucius, and Taoists, and Indigenous will all say. Socrates, so lying is always a terrible sin. Remember, yesterday we learned from Prince A that sin means to miss the mark or miss the target. It's an archery. Okay, so you aim to be a good, truthful person, and you don't tell the truth, which makes you not a good person. You miss the mark. We call that sin. As a student says, absolutely. Well then, let's suppose that a father's son is terribly sick but refuses to take his medicine. The father puts the medicine in his son's drink and tells his son there's only water in his drink. Is the father's lie a terrible sin? So that's the parallel dilemma that we're looking at. Okay. So do the parents approve this action because it is right? Action is right or wrong solely because of the authority, your parents' approval or disapproval. Choice has no rational foundation in the situation. Or is it right because my parents approve of it? The action is already right or wrong, independent of authority, Whatever rational standard employed as criterion for making his choice must be accessible to us. You have to understand it, makes sense. Okay. Socrates is concerned that in society we're more interested in wealth, fame, and power as opposed to truth, knowledge, and wisdom. Most of the men he questioned were sophists, wealthy men whose profession was to teach aristocratic young men how to be successful. According to the sophists, success was the ability to gain and hold on to wealth, fame, and power. A lot of people, this is why we think we go to school, so we get a nice job, have a nice car, nice career, make lots of money, and that's what it's all about, being happy or not.
Sorry for interruption.
Yeah.
May you share the slide with us in the Google Classroom? Because I cannot see the slides clearly.
You can't see them clearly?
Yeah.
Yeah. At the end of class, I'll, like I did yesterday, I'll send a copy of the PowerPoint to everyone.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, I wonder what's happening. Why? Does anybody else have problem with the clarity in class? Anybody else online? I don't have access to the chat right now because I'm presenting. So if you could, anyone else have problems with it? It's not clear. They're having problems too?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, one second. I got my IT person, Andrew, gonna correct for them.
But you might not, you won't be able to see your speaker notes. Is that fine?
Is that why?
Yeah, like if you go on here, let me show you what they see. This is what they see.
Oh, they're seeing both.
Yeah. When they, I mean,
Oh, no, all that is the next slide.
yeah, but they're saying that it's not clear because of how tiny it is.
Oh,
If you want, you can make it the full screen. Just this one here, instead of the slide.
okay, can you use that for me? I thought that they only see the.
No,
Okay.
hold on. Let's just check again.
No, I know how to do this. One second.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, that's okay now?
However, that means that the only way for you to read your presenter notes is off these screens.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Thank you. That's what I thought was happening. That only here I was seeing. You didn't see the whole screen.
Yeah.
Okay, that should be clear now? Okay.
Sure.
Okay. This great part here, I copy paste this technique here. Probably why. I should be careful of the color choice that I use. Okay, I'll check all the questions later. Okay, so Socrates says, why do you care so much about laying up the greatest amount of money and honor and reputation, and so little about wisdom and truth, the greatest improvement of the soul? For Socrates, the soul, our ability to reason, is who we are. Our bodies, both a vegetative sense, we're organic creatures, and we have sense perceptions and we have sense experiences. Those things come and go, just like our body comes and go. But what always is eternal is our soul and our ability to reason and think. So we should be searching for happiness of our soul, not the pleasures of our sense perceptions. With sense perceptions, by that we mean what we do with what we see, what we hear, what we touch, what we smell, and what we taste. Our senses put us in touch with the world and cause us to reaction. If I start telling you right now, if you listen to me, if I put a picture here of a new McDonald's commercial with all those kids taking the order from the father, and they want this, this, and this, and start talking about Big Macs, and you see pictures of fries, by seeing and by hearing, you start imagining tasting it. And your life will be ruled by your senses. What Socrates wants us to do is be ruled by our mind, our reasoning. This is what's going to get us wisdom and happiness. Okay. So in search of the good means in search of living. a good, right, and just life. His primary concern in philosophy, the study of wisdom, was how should we live? Three questions. What is the good? What is right? And what is justice? Now, over here, he has the only life worth living is a good life. I can only live a good life if I really know what is good and evil, what good and evil are. And unquestioning life is one of ignorance without morality. Good and evil are not relative, they are absolutes. They can only be found by a process of questioning and reasoning. In, in this way, morality and knowledge are bound together. The life which is, I'm in trouble with my glasses too. The life that is, the life which is unexamined is not worth living. Okay? So if you just go around living life and not thinking about what's going on and not making your own decisions and making decisions based on other people's opinions, is not going to be a happy life. A priest called the Oracle of Delphi pronounced a priest called the Oracle of Delphi pronounced Socrates the wisest man in Greece. Socrates concluded that while others professed knowledge they did not have, Socrates knew how little he knew. Socrates asked many questions, but he gave few answers. He often denied knowing the answers to the questions he asked. This is what we call ignorance. The ignorance does not mean stupid. We make people think that they're stupid, they're ignorant. But in a philosophical sense means they don't know. You tell me pi to 8 decimal places. If you don't know what pi to 8 decimal places, you know what it is in 2 decimal places, 3.14. You use it 1,000 times. If I ask you to tell me what it is in 8 decimal places, does that make you stupid? No, you're ignorant. It means I don't know that much detail. Okay? So Socrates says, I don't know much, that's why I'm wise. I don't walk around like I know everything. Those are the dangerous people for him. People who walk around and say they know everything and they don't know. Why are we such a mess right now with COVID? We have all these scientists who are supposed to know all this stuff, who are supposed to be watching out for this. Climate change, what happened? So people walk around thinking they know, they don't know, but act as if they do know. That's dangerous. For Socrates, he knows he doesn't know, he doesn't pretend to know, but he doesn't stop there. If you don't understand a question in the book, what do? Close the book and put it away and move on? No, you try to figure it out. Google it. Ask a student. Ask a friend. Ask a parent. Ask a teacher. Try to find out. So that's what made him important. So in my notes here, I have no one is wiser than Socrates. Socrates has an open awareness of his own ignorance. He does not know. And he uses reasoning, insistent questioning, we call the Socratic method. And he's devoted to the truth, to searching for the truth, and refuses to accept, and we'll go on to the next chapter. Okay? For Socrates, the key is truth. He recognizes his own ignorance, asks the right questions. What is courage, justice, and truth? Is it possible to know anything? And discovery occurs when beliefs are tested. Again, which is your video. Test them. Don't be afraid. If he should be able to explain. If he says, I'm the principal, then you know he's on shaky grounds. But he won't do that. He can explain it to you. Socrates, thinking in action, a moral life. Socrates believed that an action is right when it promotes humanity's true happiness. He spoke of alcohol, drunkenness. Only short-term pleasure is gained. You drink, and get drunk. interesting. University of Western Ontario, my son's old university. Everybody had party weeks, parties at homes, parties in pubs 2 weeks ago. And a lot of them didn't practice social distancing. And then yesterday you saw lineup after lineup, 4 hours long at Western University trying to get COVID testing. And they got upset because they ran out of tests. They didn't expect all these people. All of a sudden, well, what were you doing 2 weeks ago? Drinking, partying, not practicing social distance. And now you're getting yourself tested for COVID. One person at a wedding has COVID, and there's 300 people, 50 people. One person has COVID, they don't practice social distancing. If they're drinking alcohol, you don't have the same control of your life and your decisions. You don't practice social distancing, and you're sharing the virus. So drunkenness, only a short-term pleasure is gained. Whatever you are escaping from when you drink will come back. Drunkenness has long-term effects, leads to ill health, can enslave the body, you become addicted to it. The drinking of alcohol goes against reason. Why would you willingly want to damage your body? And I would add here, limit your ability to make good decisions, rational decisions, when alcohol is impeding your rational ability. Alcohol and drunkenness does not produce true pleasure. The negative effects far outweigh the temporary happiness, and therefore Socrates believed that true pleasure could only be attained through living a moral life. Okay, any questions so far here? Okay. And for those of you online, I'll read your questions after the slide presentation. Okay, Socrates was brought to trial. Some people didn't like Socrates for asking too many questions. In the end, he was accused of corrupting the youth, atheism, not believing the Greek gods, and attacking traditional institutions like the government. He was brought to trial where he had to defend himself. So corrupting the minds of the youth of Athens, and impiety, being an atheist, not believing in the gods of the state. Okay, so he asked questions, like all philosophers, when you ask questions, you get in trouble. They don't want you to ask those questions because they can't answer them, or because the answers will reveal the truth of what's happening. His followers, Crito, his friends, were under a lot of pressure. They were being mocked by other people, saying, well, hey, your teacher is in trouble. Why aren't you doing anything to help him? And they were afraid to go up against authority. You're going to find that when you get in trouble, your friends disappear. I don't know a person. Jesus himself lost all his followers when he was arrested. Judas betrayed him, but Peter denied him 3 times. And to deny someone in those days is not easy to say, but I don't know who he is. I'm not his friend. To deny someone is more than a betrayal. It's to deny that you ever had anything to do with the person. Deny the person altogether. Okay, so I'll use Andrew. If Andrew gets in trouble and his friends disappear, hey, you're with Andrew. Who's Andrew? Never heard the guy. Okay, totally reject. Make the person disappear from importance existence. So his friends are being accused of denial. So they came up with a plan to get him to escape, so he could live. Because what he was facing is capital punishment. He was a traitor. He was causing all kinds of problems because the young people were questioning the parents. Like my dad smoking, telling my brother off. Yeah, but you're smoking. Why don't you stop smoking? Hey, don't talk to me like that. I'm your father. When you get old, you make your own decisions. Right now, you're not old. I make the decisions for you. That's what the state was doing. So Crito's friends plan, should Socrates flee prison in order to escape his unjust condemnation? Crito had 4 reasons. The majority will think ill of Socrates and his friends if he does not escape. What a loser. What a loser friends. Nice man, but he lost. Since the court erred, it should not be obeyed. So should appeal it, but there's no appeal here. The court made a mistake, so ignore it. Civil disobedience. The welfare of the children of Socrates requires his escape. So if he's dead, what happens to his kids? And then the death is an evil to be avoided. I mean, the crime is so serious, the punishment is so serious. I mean, if you have to spend like 6 months in jail, that's okay. But he's going to be dead. It's not as severe as what Muhammad Ali had to endure for avoiding the draft to fight in Vietnam. He spent 3 years in jail. He lost his heavyweight championship boxing title. And then when he came back afterwards, he was a bit older. But he did fight in court, and eventually the Supreme Court of the United States said he has a right to be a conscientious objector and not have to go to war because of his beliefs. Okay. So Socrates' refusal to escape. Let's go to the right one, the cartoon. I'm not going to escape. I'm going to stay right here. If I were to escape after having been found legally guilty, that would set a bad example. I am going to obey the law. And so the young people will not be corrupted by my example. So you do not want civil disobedience. Okay, we're different now in our society. We believe that if the law is wrong, we can fight against it. We have great examples in the past. Claiming that his whole life, a search for absolute truth, has been a preparation for death. So he talks about a relationship between you and your parents. The relationship, you obeying the laws of the state is like you obeying the laws of your parents. If you don't like your parents' rules, you can't reject them and still live at home and still be under your parents' domain. So if you're, again, like looked at in the experiences, if your parents say be home by 11, you better be home by 11. I know parents who say, well, 11 o'clock, I'm locking the door. If you're at 11:01, you're not coming into the house. You're going to have to find a place to live. I know people who left their kids outside. Now, not children, but teenagers as you get older and more dependent. Well, if you're old enough to be out late and not follow my rules, you're old enough to figure out what you're going to do afterwards. Is that right or wrong? Cruel, but practical. Would you learn from it? Of course, your mother will let you to the back door. Okay. So he said, just like you don't disobey your parents, you honor and follow your parents' rules. Similarly, you don't disobey the state. So Socrates is found guilty. So in Athens, the jury was everybody. Everybody who showed up. The demos, the people. That's where we're democracy. So 280 jurors found him guilty, and 220 jurors acquitted him. So the majority ruled. Plato's going to be angry because this is mob rule. So if you get enough people angry at you, whether it's right or wrong, whether it's true or not, the majority is going to rule. There was no judge. So all the people were the judges. Each side proposed punishments. Jurors chose accusers of Socrates, proposed the punishment of death. Socrates asked the jury for free meals in the Prytaneum. In other words, jail, but food, so you can live. 360 voters voted for death and 140 for the fine. He eventually had to take hemlock, which is a poison, and he died. For Socrates, truth is the only basis for decisions about human actions. Reason reveals the truth. All the people who judged him guilty were simply living on the basis of opinion. They didn't know what they were doing. No one desires evil, no one errs or does wrong willingly or knowingly. All virtue is knowledge. Virtue is positive moral behavior. Socrates' whole purpose in life was his famous words, know yourself. In the Carpe Diem and in the Principe New Year's, what I wanted you to try to figure out is who are you? What are you? What are you doing with yourself? What do you want to do with your life? What's going to make you happy, not someone else, not your parents, not your friends, not society, you. That's what it means to live life extraordinarily, is to live your own unique life. You are not a copy of anyone else. You're the original. And once you become a copy of someone else, you lose your individuality, you lose your originality. So Socrates' whole point is, the reason why he wants you to ask questions is to find out for yourself what anything means. Find out the truth for yourself, not because somebody says so. Okay, so ultimately Socrates taught the priority of personal integrity. Another word we use is authenticity. Be real, don't be fake. A person's duty to himself or herself, let me be inclusive, and no one else. Not God, not your parents, not the law. True wisdom comes to each of us when we realize how little we understand about life, ourselves, and the world around us. When you can recognize this, you become free of the unreal world around you. You become your own authority. You become your own I. This is important because in school, what you're here for, and I like to think that school, we're in the freedom business. Especially now you're in grade 12. We want you to learn to be free, make your own decisions, create your own path, make your own journey, search for happiness. What makes you happy and not somebody else happy? So we're in the freedom business. If the only thing you learn in my class is that you are free, I'm happy. You're free. And if you're not free, do you realize you're not free? And how do you become free? And how do you find freedom that leads to happiness? Okay. So we go to Socratic method. And some of you asked yesterday, is this education? Yes, this is education. So dialectic method. A discussion involving opposing views begins with commonly held truths and opinions. Questions are then asked to test the logic behind these views. Contradicting ideas are eliminated until consistency is reached. Socrates believed this was the ultimate way of discovering the truth. So in the cartoon, you see, I don't teach, I merely ask questions. Why? To throw people back on their own resources. Why? To turn them inward, to gain wisdom. Why? Why? To discern truth. Why? All right. Okay. So try to find answers, ask questions. Don't give up. Keep searching. That's what made Socrates wise. We call it dialectic method. Okay, I have 4 pictures here. So take a look at these and see if you can answer them. Okay. First one. How many legs does the elephant have? Okay, any answers? How many legs does the elephant have? Okay, somebody give me an answer. Okay, how many legs does the elephant usually have? 4. How many does it look like this elephant has right now?
7.
5, 6. Okay. Now look again. Can you see 4 legs?
Yeah.
Or you still see 5, 6? Okay. So I know that they are. It's an elephant. Okay, 4 legs, no problem. Unless I had an injury. I saw a beautiful family with a dog with 2 legs. Yeah, lost his hind legs and had wheels. So it was moving around with 2 wheels and 2 fronts. Wonderful. usually we would say, oh, a dog with two legs, mercy killing, kill the thing, put it out its misery, took me out of my misery. Not to look at this thing here. No, they love the dog. And they kept the dog. Some people clone dogs. Want to keep the dog even after it dies. So how many legs? It's actually got 1, 2, 3, 4. But because of the spaces, it looks like it actually has 7. But in fact, 4. But you won't know that until you ask a question. And then ask each other, what do you see? What do you see? How do you see that? Okay. Next one. I cannot teach anybody anything. I can only make them think. This is Socrates. So here, always question. Can lined paper, I'm choosing the screen there. Can can lined paper ever be called a blank sheet? We call it a blank sheet, right? But it's got lines on it. Okay, I have one right here. Okay, is this a blank sheet? Yes, it is. I haven't written on it, but it's got lines. So is this a blank sheet? Which one's a blank sheet? Blank piece of white paper or a blank piece of white paper with lines on it? It's thick. It's very comfortable. The next one. Always question. What color would a zebra be if it lost all its stripes? Is it a black horse or a white horse? Are the stripes white stripes? Or on a black horse or black horse on a white horse? A few years ago, there was a big hoopla about a dress. Was it a gold dress or a blue dress that you saw behind you? Or is big hoopla what you've heard? Somebody had recorded something and what you hear it, depending on your hearing and your age, you hear different things. Okay. Again, you're not going to know if you only live on the level of sense perception, your sight. You're making all kinds of assumptions. So Socrates says, see with your eyes, but think with your mind. No 7 legs on the elephant. It's a blank page where there's line page with no lines on it. And it's a zebra that's black and white. It might be a black horse with white stripes or a white horse with black stripes. We don't know. Okay. Next. No single man or woman is bad, but he becomes bad to his ignorance if you don't know. The Athenians didn't know what they were doing. They're ignorant. They only had opinion. They didn't get into Socrates, who he was, and his teaching. If they were to give him more attention and thought, they would have convicted him, would have charged him. But they felt they had to do so in self-defense because all the young people were questioning them and they couldn't answer the questions. Practical wisdom means right action based on knowledge and the truth, not based on opinion and sense experiences. It's better to change an opinion than to persist in a wrong one. This is Socrates' search for wisdom. It's just not what you know, it's how you live based on what you know, what you do, what actions you take based on knowledge or opinion. Okay, virtues. The last question has to do with virtues. Knowledge means to tune. Vice, no tune, bad word. So if you play a musical instrument like a guitar or a violin and it's not tuned, it makes awful sounds. Music is when it's tuned and there's harmony created. If soul is tuned, then virtue, the tune of a tune. Soul rules over the body. Tune must have heart implies that body rules over soul. For Socrates, it's not your body, your senses that's important, it's your mind. To piety, what is due to the gods. Take the first part of the answer and put in brackets. It's not what he means by piety. And when you have your assignment, please don't refer to what is due to the gods. Refer to the idea of humility, what it means to be humble. To be humble means to be aware of yourself and to always think that others are important, not yourself. Put others before yourself. That's what it means to be humble. If you're walking outside the door, you hold the door for somebody else. Let them walk. If somebody falls down, you don't think about yourself. You think about the person who fell down. You help them. If you watch basketball, whenever any player falls to the ground, there's three or four people, sometimes from the opposing team, reach out their hands and pull them back up. Okay? This is the symbol here. Piety is not to think that you're on top, but think of who's behind you and help them up. Think of the others. So that's the definition of humility, piety that Socrates is interested in. Justice. To know what is due to others. In this virtue, we have the power to give God what we owe and to give others what we owe them too. Justice implies to be under a moral obligation to give someone gratitude, respect, caring. Every human being needs at least the basic human needs. Every person deserves to have shelter, food, clothing, clean water, to have an education, health, to know that God loves them and cares. So justice is to give everyone what they are due, which means what they are owed. So they help people with shelter, food, clothing, clean water. We call those the corporeal works of mercy. It's justice. Fairness, respect, treat everybody like yourself. That's what justice means. Courage. Old word for courage is fortitude, to know what is to be feared and to know what is not to be feared. It's from the text. A fort is some kind of base or military fortress that stands firm outside the castle. It is very difficult for an enemy to enter the fort. In similar ways, the virtue of fortitude or courage gives us the power to be strong and to withstand temptation to sin and to always search for truth and not allow opinion to rule. So you have to be courage in the face of danger. That's the third virtue that's important for Socrates. The fourth one is temperance, to know how to use what is good and avoid what is evil. Temperance gives me the ability to use the created good in the right way. For example, you have a weakness for chocolate cake, and eating too much, it can make you sick or your body. So you need the virtue of temperance to help you eat chocolate cake in the right amount and in the right time. The best is to control your appetite for chocolate cake. You need to have moderation or self-control in eating too much chocolate cake. The best way to always remember this is the story of Goldilocks and the three bears. And so when Goldilocks enters the home, she notices soup on the table. First one is too hot. Second is too cold. And the third is just right. So always try and find that middle, that balance between too much and too little. That's the temperate or moderate way. Okay, last slide. The good is not what is useful, not what is advantageous or utility, but it's the good in itself. So here's the way to understand it. Socrates' triple filter test. If what you're going to say to others is not true and or not good and or not useful, don't say it. So live your life always with truthfulness, goodness, usefulness. That allows you to be humble, pious. It allows you to be courageous when you rather take the other route. It allows you to be just and treat people with decency and reverence and respect. And it allows you to make the moderate choice based on reason, not on emotions and appetite. So secret of happiness is not found in seeking more, but in developing the capacity to enjoy less. Okay, and that's it. Okay, so what we're going to do now is take a little break. After I take some questions, I'll give you a little break before we move on to the next thing. Okay, so okay, thank you, Marco. Let me check the before I do anything else. Let me check the attendance. Thank you, Marco. Sorry, guys. I should check attendance first. Okay. Yeah, Patrick, we lost connection. Okay, I hope you get back on. Let's take a break until 11 o'clock, okay? If you have any questions, I will answer any questions. Andrew, how do you get screening? This is bad, eh? I'm going to be lost without you tomorrow. But you won't be here tomorrow.
Yeah, but I'll just show you.
Okay, show me how to do this.
Just annoying because it keeps switching by itself. So you go to this screen, your desktop,
Yeah.
right click, and then there's display settings.
Display settings.
Once you go in there, see this?
Yeah.
So right now, this is display 1.
Display settings.
Yep. Scroll down to where it says multiple displays.
Okay.
There's this option here, multiple displays.
Yep.
If you choose this option, you'll see duplicate these displays.
Okay, so duplicate.
Yep.
Right. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, first questions from the class. Any questions from the slide? Okay, I'll send it to you at the end of class. You can have a copy of it. Sounds good? No questions? Okay, you should take a break, relax. Yeah, you know the procedure? Okay. Okay, so we're gonna have a break to 11. No, not 11, sorry, 10. Oh, we have to wait one at a time. Yes. No, PowerPoint. are there just to help you understand. Test will give you first step next week. There's an open offer. It'll be based on the single question. But the PowerPoint, if you want to, you can also print out the PowerPoint, like four questions. No, what they do is I'm going to give you a story, and I'm going to play your Socrates, or you say, okay. Based on the information. It's really it's not of it. I put out one question. Number 6.
Writing's not that easy, but Grammarly can help. This sentence is grammatically correct.
For say, we will have assignments that are like tests. I don't give quizzes. It'll be small tests. The first one will be next week, but it's going to be a test assignment. It'll be open notebook. So I was telling Azine earlier that I will give you a story, and then I'm going to ask you to be like Socrates. How would you answer the question? And you'll be able to use all the homework assignments. I don't want you searching anything on the internet, and I can't check up on you, but it'll be like an open notebook assignment. This is the way we used to do it at McGivney when I was at McGivney. When I used to teach philosophy, all the tests were open notebook, and it's going to shock you, the exam was open notebook. And so for the exam, for example, we gave students 2 questions, 1 hour each, and they can have all their notes and all the research and everything that they've done over the course of semester with them. So the exam is going to be a CPT assignment. I'll be giving to you next week. Once we get into the course, you feel comfortable, and you'll have 2 months to do it. And that would be worth 30% of your final mark. And that takes the place of the CPT and the exam all together in one. So I hope that helps. I'll explain more later on, but thanks for asking. Unfortunately, that's what they've asked. So last semester we had to stop tests, but we still give assignments. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. What does answer like Socrates mean, Michelle? You use the ideas of Socrates and the language of Socrates, like opinion, knowledge, ignorance, truth, virtues. So you use those ideas. So developing a philosophical language based on Socrates, so you use his ideas to answer the questions, but you answer your own way by using his answers. Who wants to watch? Yeah, go ahead. Go 1 year, 1 2 more. I wasn't thinking, sorry. Once you get past by this, the language gets a little bit different. That's why I'll send you the PowerPoint. I'll also send you my notes. Use those for the the test, we're going to, how will the test be delivered? I'm working on that. My idea right now is that, let's say on Tuesday, perhaps, I give you a test, and it'll be, let's say, between 9 and 10, so 1 hour. Give you lots of time to do it. Then I want you to send it to me by the end of the time. So those of you who are in class will write the test here and then send it to me. So you need your devices. Those of you who are at home will write the test at home. Again, open notebook. You can use all your notes, all your research, and everything else. And then you send it to me by 10 o'clock, something like that. We'll figure it out. I gotta ask administration more how we're gonna do this, because they haven't really clarified it. I talked to some colleagues of mine, and they all want to give take-home stuff or open notebook stuff, small little things which you can work on. So as soon as I figure it out, as soon as we all figure it out, I'll let you guys know more. I have my captions on. If you put your captions on the Google Meet, I can see whether or not my voice is coming through. And even though there's a lot of spelling errors, we'll figure it out. We'll make it as comfortable for you as possible. And the idea is we'll give you every opportunity to be successful, notwithstanding the situation we find ourselves in. Okay. Good questions. Okay, time to get back to work. Before I continue with our next thing, there's a slide that's missing in my PowerPoint presentation, and that has to do with Pythagoras. Question number 6A. Now, I'm sorry, so what I'll do is after class is over at 11 o'clock, I'll sit down, I'll correct my PowerPoint presentation, and I will fix it up, add Pythagoras. So Pythagoras is missing in the PowerPoint presentation. And then I will send you the PowerPoint presentation. And I will also send you my notes to help you understand this part here. So I'll send you two things later on. I can't promise you exactly 11 o'clock. Give me some time, and I don't know what's going to happen with me in terms of my responsibilities at the school. So I will get it to you this afternoon, before the afternoon sometime. So I'll send you two things: the PowerPoint presentation and also the my notes for this assignment. So you have that. So we have a task. You can use the PowerPoint presentation and my notes as well. That's what we should do at most of the day. Okay? Now, question number 6. I can't hear clearly, sorry. Okay, question number 6 is Pythagoras. Now, Pythagoras is different. Pythagoras is like all of the people from Athens. So I have to add Pythagoras down here. Turn down photographers. Protagoras. Now, he believed that all men and women, all humans, are the measure of all things. He was diametrically opposed to Socrates. He was following what the Athenians were saying, was whatever you feel like doing, do it. Don't think of the gods. Who cares? They're up there somewhere, if they exist. Don't think about the government. They should mind their own business. Don't think of friends. Do whatever makes you happy. So he believed that that the humans are the measure of all things. You decide what you want to do. It's all about you, nobody else. Nobody else cares, and nobody else should care. And everybody else should simply stay away from you and let you do anything. So he believed that you should follow your sense experiences and do what your senses, what we call your desires or appetites, call you to do. And you don't have to explain to anyone. So my father, if he wants to smoke, he can smoke. No one's going to tell him not to smoke. That's his choice. If you want to be out of uniform, you could be out of uniform. Of course, the school's going to come down hard on you. But too bad. If you want to drink, makes you happy, drink. You want to get drunk? Get drunk. You want to have a hangover? You have a hangover. Whatever you want to do, you decide. The only truth for Pythagoras is your own truth, not some type of universal truth for everybody. So it's very important that we distinguish between Protagoras, like the Athenians, who do whatever they want to. He has what we call a relativist position. You are your own decider. You're your own decision maker. No one should tell you what to do. Everybody should stay out of your life, and you do what you want. And if there's a conflict between Protagoras and anybody else, Protagoras believes that he's going to win, you're going to lose. If he loses, then he'll come back. And and do it again. So if he wants to drink, he can drink. If you don't want to drink, don't drink, but don't tell him what to do. So he believed that they can decide what they want to do. For him, knowledge is what he knows, truth is what he decides, the laws are what he decides. We see that every day. If you're driving on a highway and it says 100 kilometers per hour, that's the law. That's the speed you're supposed to go. Rarely does anybody drive at 100 kilometers an hour. I drive like a grandmother. So I'm going 90. Even if I'm speeding at 100, which is the speed limit, people honk at me, they flash their lights at me, and they wave at me with one finger. Even if I go up to 100, because they're all going 120, 130. So they're following Protagoras' idea. If I want to drive 130, I can drive as long as I don't cause an accident. If I do cause an accident, well, so it's an accident. But no one's going to tell me to limit my speed to 100. At school zones, it's 30 and 40 kilometers. And people are caught now, especially Toronto, they have cameras. You know, half the people are teachers rushing to school. No, a lot of them are. But why do we have the rule? We want to keep the kids safe. If you're going 60 in a 40 zone next to a school, that's a danger to the children. If you're speeding, there's more chance of danger. So what Protagoras says, who cares? You do what you want to do. You are the measure, which means you are the decision maker. And no one's going to tell you what to do. Socrates, on the other hand, says, no, there has to be some type of common idea, something that we all share in common that makes sense. So 100 kilometers an hour on the highway, or 40 or 30 in a school zone, that makes common sense. That's reasonable for the protection of the children. And then if you increase the speed, you increase the danger to children. To people who drink and then they drive, they always say to me, oh, I can drink. I'm free to drink. My right to drink. I can smoke a joint. I can smoke a joint and drink. And I'm such a great driver, I can drive too. I've done it many times. Never had an accident until right now. So they never believe anything's going to happen because they feel invincible. A lot of young people are now smoking or vaping. That increases the effects of COVID. You're weakening your lungs. Cigarettes weaken your lungs. Vaping weakens your lungs. If the virus gets into you, or a cold or a flu, has a greater effect on you and your health because you have taken that wonderful, beautiful organ we call a lung and polluted it and weakened it. Protagoras says, we have a right to hurt yourself as long as it makes you happy and you feel good. Socrates says, no. Good health, care of yourself. Okay. So I forgot number 6, Protagoras. So he's completely in disagreement with Socrates. Socrates is completely disagreement with him. Protagoras is in fact what society is like. It's a relativistic society. Everything is relative to what you decide. Okay. So I'm sorry I forgot that, but I will correct the PowerPoint and send it back to you. Okay. Next. For homework today, 3 things I sent in the email. Number 1 is Plato. The title got cut off. It's 1 page. It's question number 1, 2, and 3. And then the next one is Plato's analogy of the cave, which is about 1.5 pages. Is it analogy of the cave? Yeah, it's 1.5. And on the second page are top are 3 questions. So 2 small articles on Plato, which is who was Socrates' student. And we learned everything about Socrates through his student Plato. So those two things. Now the second one's called the analogy of the cave. And to prepare you for analogy of cave, and what Socrates believes in, that we're in this living this cave of relativism, like Pythagoras is saying, and that following our senses, our sense perceptions and understanding of our desires and our appetites and our pursuit of pleasure and fame and wealth, we find ourselves prisoners of this life. So what I'm going to assign for you, and we're going to play right now, is Prince VA, another one, my favorite one. My daughter gave me this a few years back. It's called Autocorrect Humanity. So 3 things for tomorrow. 2 assignments from Plato and 1 journal on autocorrect humanity. Okay? Question?
Which question?
This one and this one.
And these are the only.
Yeah, so this one here, this one here, this is for this one here. Okay. So 6 questions over here. Very small assignment for today. And we're going to watch this. Yeah. Okay. Plato and Plato's Analogy Cave is the next 2 sheets in your package. For those of you who have still not received the package at the end of class, because my system kept shutting down this morning, I will scan the 2, actually, the Plato one is it's in the folder. The Plato one, the title's cut off halfway, but there are 3 questions at the bottom, and then Plato's Analogy of the Cave is a page and a half, and the questions are on top. So I will scan those at the end of class, as well as give you a link to Prince EA's video. Okay. I'm going to present now. Okay. Here we go. Ready?
Did you know the average person spends 4 years of his life looking down at his cell phone? Kind of ironic, ain't it? How these touch screens can make us lose touch. But it's no wonder in a world filled with iMacs, iPads, and iPhones, so many eyes, so many selfies, not enough us's and we's. See, technology has made us more selfish and separate than ever. Because while it claims to connect us, connection has gotten no better. And let me express first, Mr. Zuckerberg, not to be rude, but you should reclassify Facebook to what it is, an anti-social network. Because while we may have big friend lists, so many of us are friendless all alone, because friendships are more broken than the screens on our very phones. We sit at home on our computers measuring self-worth by numbers of followers and likes. Ignoring those who actually love us, it seems we rather write an angry post and talk to someone who might actually hug us. Am I bugging? You tell me, because I asked a friend the other day, let's meet up face to face. They said, all right, what time do you want to Skype? I responded with OMG, SRS, and then a bunch of SMHs and realized, what about me? Do I not have the patience to have a conversation without abbreviation? This is the generation of media overstimulation. Chats have been reduced to snaps. The news is 140 characters. Videos are 6 seconds at high speed. And you wonder why ADD is on the rise faster than 4G LTE. But get a load of this. Studies show the attention span of the average adult today is 1 second lower than that of a goldfish. So if you're one of the few people on aquatic animals that have yet to click off or close this video, congratulations. Let me finish by saying you do have a choice, yes. But this one, my friends, we cannot autocorrect. We must do it ourselves. Take control of it, be controlled, make a decision. Me, No longer do I want to spoil a precious moment by recording it with a phone. I'm just gonna keep them. I don't want to take a picture of all my meals anymore. I'm just gonna eat them. I don't want the new app, the new software, or the new update. And if I want to post an old photo, who says I have to wait until Thursday? I'm so tired of performing in the pageantry of vanity and conforming to this accepted form of digital insanity. Call me crazy, but I imagine a world where we smile when we have low batteries. That'll mean we'll be one far closer to humanity.
Okay. Okay. So I want you to do write a journal for me. You do it in our class and get it over with. And talk about anything you saw in ADA. Do you agree with him or disagree with him? Last time I looked on his, I think he had something like 23 million. That was last year. 23 million hits on this YouTube video talking about how bad it is, social media and everything. And this is going to play really well into tomorrow. We look at the cave of Socrates, the analogy of the cave. Because what NCA is doing is saying that we're living in a world which is disconnected to reality. It's the world on our screens. We walk around, I was walking this morning, and everybody's like this, sitting against the wall, just with a telephone in their hand or a device in their hand. And just like in the screen, our world revolves around communication here and social media. This is one of his, I think his first video. The New Year's one from yesterday was a later one. This is the first one he did that became famous. My daughter loved it, him and follow a lot of his YouTube. They say that basically we got to get our heads out of our devices and our screens and see reality for what it is. And we're seeing too much approval for what goes on the screen, especially with social media and Facebook, that becomes our life. You know, we're chasing down this life, which is not ours. What he's really saying is, like Socrates, Plays were saying about Socrates, is that the cave, which you're going to look at today's homework assignment, is our screen now. Even the way we're learning today, our screen is our cave. Halia. You only need to hand in the journal. Yes. Again, thank you, Halia, for asking. The only thing you have to hand in to me for today is your journal. The Plato assignments are for homework. We'll take it up tomorrow in class. Okay. Sounds good? Okay. Let's play one more time, and then give you the rest of the time to work on your assignment. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to play the video one more time, and write about anything you like. Do you agree with him? Disagree with him? Is he right? Is he wrong? Are we prisoners of the media? Are we stuck in this virtual world? And what about the real world? Is the virtual world of our screen reality? Okay, so let's try this again.
Friends, we cannot autocorrect. We must do it You know the average person spends 4 years of his life looking down at his cell phone. Kinda ironic, ain't it? How these touch screens can make us lose touch. But it's no wonder in a world filled with iMacs, iPads, and iPhones, so many eyes, so many selfies, not enough us as we. See, technology has made us more selfish and separate than ever. Because while it claims to connect us, connection has gotten no better. And let me express first, Mr. Zuckerberg, not to be rude, but you should reclassify Facebook to what it is, an anti-social network. Because while we may have big friend lists, so many of us are friendless all alone, because friendships are more broken than the screens on our very phones. We sit at home on our computers measuring self-worth by numbers of followers and likes. Ignoring those who actually love us, it seems we rather write an angry post and talk to someone who might actually hug us. Am I bugging? You tell me, because I asked a friend the other day, let's meet up face to face. They said, all right, what time you want to Skype? I responded with OMG, SRS, and then a bunch of SMHs and realized, what about me? Do I not have the patience to have a conversation without abbreviation? This is the generation of media overstimulation. Chats have been reduced to snaps. The news is 140 characters. Videos are 6 seconds at high speed. And you wonder why ADD is on the rise faster than 4G LTE. But get a load of this. Studies show the attention span of the average adult today is 1 second lower than that of a goldfish. So if you're one of the few people or aquatic animals that have yet to click off or close this video, congratulations. Let me finish by saying you do have a choice, yes. But this one, my friends, we cannot autocorrect. We must do it ourselves. Take control or be controlled, make a decision. Me? No longer do I want to spoil a precious moment by recording it with a phone. I'm just going to keep them. I don't want to take a picture of all my meals anymore. I'm just going to eat them. I don't want the new app, the new software, or the new update. And if I want to post an old photo, who says I have to wait until Thursday? I'm so tired of performing in the pageantry of vanity and conforming to this accepted form of digital insanity. Call me crazy, but I imagine a world where we smile when we have low batteries. Because that'll mean we'll be one bar closer to humanity.
Okay, so just before I take questions from the distant students, any questions from you? Yes. Yeah. Okay, so 3 things to do for today. Number 1 is Plato, number 1 to 3, and the title's cut off. The other one is Plato's analogy to cave, 1 to 3. But that's just for homework. You don't set it. Do it for homework. We'll take it up tomorrow. I have a short video for you tomorrow. And then the third thing is Princi A, autocorrect humanity. So if you can work on that between now and the end of class, you should be able to finish it and then send it to me. For those of you who are in class, you can send it to me whenever you can. Any questions now? Let's see what we have. Any questions from the class? You're okay? So 2 homework assignments and 1 journal. And only the journal gets sent to me. They only send me the journal. Okay, let's see what we have here. Okay, Ryan, the video is called Princey A, Autocorrect Humanity. Thank you, Say. Thank you, Nathan.